Hey folks, I'm talking about April 2021. Jupiter is changing signs. The sun's going to be exalted. We have a lot of shifts into Aries. Mars is going to move into Gemini. We have a lot to talk about with April 2021. So check it out. Hey folks, so as you see, I'm doing this April 2021 video. You see the background here behind me. There's my I'm actually in the corner. This is a mirror behind me, as you can see, right? I have a mirror on one of my walls, so you can see my Shiva poster over there, my big Shiva drop down there. I have a big Shiva wall hanging and an altar to my guru and all this stuff. So you're kind of seeing different reflected version of my condo here, doing some work. And I realized that I forgot to do the April forecast, so we're doing it now. And we have the this month ahead. And I did want to let people know one thing that some of you didn't register yet for the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio web class that I have done before. I just put the link in the description box because I did it last year, where I talked about this transit of Rahu through Taurus and Ketu through Scorpio was going to be really big for this next year. In fact, into 2022, into March of next year. So we still got about a year of the nodal axis of this nodal transit, right? And as you see, the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio. We have Rahu in Taurus and Ketu in Scorpio, which is going to continue, of course, through April of 2021. And again, as you can see, Mars and Rahu are very close in the sky right now. That's where we're starting. And this Rahu Mars has, definitely led to some recent, explosive things that have happened. I did a video last week with my student and astrologer, Casey Scott, where we talked about a few of the things that we're seeing culturally with Rahu Mars. Of course, on a personal level, it's a very powerful time to really get a handle on Mars energy, getting more disciplined, getting more focused. I've been getting a lot more focused and disciplined with Rahu Mars and Taurus, especially. I've finally done a lot of things around my condo that, really improving it and getting rid of stuff and moving stuff to my storage space and getting spaces organized, because this Rahu Mars, Taurus is that sign of the home and the structure. And we just had the full moon here in Virgo again. So there's been a lot of this earth energy here lately to really kind of rein it in and get a handle on our environment. Of course, we also have Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. Excuse me, especially Saturn in Capricorn. He's going to continue to be there. Suddenly got a little hiccup here. So again, that's a lot of earth sign energy. And the earth signs are really about grounding and bringing things into your immediate environment. Very good for those kinds of meditations that are very practical, very down to earth, like simplistic meditations that are about being present, surrendering, relaxing into the depth of the heart. And so we're seeing a lot of that now. With so much earth energy as we start off the month. Now we're going to shift from this earth, which we see earth and water. Everything is earth and water at the beginning. You see, because we have these planets in earth signs, Rahu, Mars up here in Taurus, Saturn, Jupiter down here in Capricorn. We just had the full moon in Virgo, but everything else is water, right? We have moon Ketu when we start. Again, the moon, it changes a lot, but on April 1st and 2nd, the moon is in the watery sign of Scorpio. Of course, Ketu is also in Scorpio right now, so this is why it's really been drawing us into a deeper meditative space. Since September of this last year, especially with Ketu in Scorpio, it's really been bringing us into that transcendent state. Those of you who have a meditation practice or have been working on one for years or whatever, a mystical connection, authentic mystical connection, not just, yeah, I'm spiritual, I read and do this and all that. No, I mean, really have done sadhana before, have done spiritual practice and pranayama and yoga and really worked with this energy, have probably really felt a resurgence in that mystical aspect of your nature. This is K2 in Scorpio, and it's one of the reasons why I love K2 in Scorpio. For K2 more than any other sign, because Scorpio is so focused and kind of relentless and has this quality of disdain anyway. Scorpio is kind of negative, tamasic. It can have a real negative kind of quality where it's angry at the world a little bit, in some sense. Again, emotionally frustrated and whatnot. But again, you get K2 there, and K2 also just doesn't want anything to do with the world, right? Again, you look at this as opposite Taurus, which loves the world, right? Rahu in Taurus is powerful because it helps to manifest, and that can help to appease that nature of Rahu, satiate the appetite. But again, K2 doesn't want anything to do with the world, and in some ways, Scorpio doesn't either. On a certain level, it's really, in some ways, kind of frustrated and a little bit angry on some level. Again, if you're a Scorpio, don't get your feelings hurt again. Of all the signs, Scorpios get the most angry when I say anything negative about. I can talk about every sign, but it's quality of Scorpios also. I'm not talking about Scorpios and that's the only thing you do and whatnot. I'm just saying there's that quality where Scorpio also has this emotional frustration. So with K2 there, it really brings that nature of, the deeper quality of Scorpio again, and that's just on the surface, that frustration and anger and that emotional frustration. Underneath of that is enormous devotion. If Scorpio can get beneath all of that surface triggering, it's just because Scorpio wants to have some control over things, and they don't have any control over people and situations, and it's frustrating, right? So after that part of it dies down, then Scorpios are also very relentless in wanting to get to the truth, so then they can tap into that devotion very easily. But again, Scorpio people who don't have a authentic spiritual practice, they hang out in that place of just frustration and conflict and confrontation and all that. They have a very hard time. They need to transform that. They need to find something to be devoted to. So this is why K2 is so powerful in Scorpios, because K2 is also in many ways the most devotional part of the whole chart. If we can tap into the kind of negativity that it can bring, because K2 doesn't want to be in the world. It's like, I don't care what you promise me, I'm not going to like it. I want to leave. So again, there's been a lot of potential for deep spiritual transformation since September of 2020 when K2 moved into Scorpio. So again, we'll feel that at the beginning of April because the moon is there. Moon is there. And again, the real power is the devotion. The real power of K2 is devotion, and the real power of Scorpio is devotion. So again, besides that, we have Venus, Sun, and Mercury up here on water signs as well. So like I say, we start off the month with just earth and water. Practical structure. Again, not to just be autobiographical, but it's felt so good for me this last few days since the full moon in Virgo to just I'm getting ready to start a new course. And usually I would have just done that. It would have been done a couple days ago. Don't worry, it'll be out tomorrow. I'm going to announce it. But I just haven't been able to take myself away from setting up a new altar space, cleaning out this area, getting my space organized. It felt good spiritually. It felt very healing because it felt like my space it was just feeling cluttered. So now I walk in and it's like, there's literally space. Because I like things to be sparse. I don't like tons of furniture or tons of stuff. Some people, when I bought this condo, there was so much furniture. Like when I came to see it, I had to imagine what it would be like without just every inch of space filled with stuff. I like things that have space. Like one little area over here, then space. I have a little corner, then I have a lot of space. The room has space in it. So I started to get sort of cluttered a little bit. And it's felt so good to clear out some clutter. Again, that's very much Virgo full moon, Saturn, Jupiter in Capricorn, Mars, Rahu in Taurus, right? So this is the kind of spiritualizing quality of organizing your world. But again, besides that, we have Venus, Sun, Mercury in Pisces, water sign. So this is also why it's felt so good. Like I felt it's been very healing and felt really good, like letting go of a lot of stuff. Because of that, Pisces is very much about letting go and purging and very devotional. It's been very devotional since Venus went into Pisces and the Sun as well, both of them. And you see they're still very close in the sky as we start out April 1803 and 19 for Venus. They track pretty close to each other. They'll be pretty close for a while. Venus is behind the Sun. So Venus is also getting purified by the Sun. It's combust. And when planets are combust, when Venus is combust and direct, it's behind the Sun. When it's combust and retrograde, it's in front of the Sun, but Venus is behind the Sun now. Mercury's about to go behind the Sun. He's moving pretty fast right now. But so, again, there's a lot of that Pisces energy, though, which is that devotion. So that earth and water, it's really a time to be connecting to the heart at the beginning of the month, really organizing and being devotional, getting your space in order and your inner space, connecting to what is beyond this world. This past weekend, I taught a 3-hour workshop on the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is like my original, basically my meditation practice. And, it was just sharing this healing path of surrender with people and how easy it is to meditate and connect with your divine nature. We make it a problem. We make it something hard. It's the easiest thing ever because it's you. It's your nature. We have to keep doing things to take us away from it when we're constantly doing those things. If we just stop trying to find it and just surrender and relax, it will reveal itself as ourself. Ourself will be revealed. All will be revealed when we surrender the ego, when we let go this idea that we are in control of something. And these are the most profound ideas that a human could ever have, because it dismantles the structure, the machinery of ignorance and the ego and the attachment. And so this universe is compelling you to meditate. Everything is meditating. This is one of the things that I learned from Osho, or Rajneesh at the time. The way he explained these things is he was like, the entire universe is meditating, except human beings. We're the only thing that's not meditating because our ego. Everything else is in meditation. Nature is meditation. It is a meditation. Look at animals. You want to know how to meditate? Just watch a cat. Watch a dog. This is why these ancient people revered these animals for different things. You want to learn courage? Watch a lion. You want to learn contentment? Watch a cow. You want to learn meditation and peace? Watch a cat. You want to learn activity? Watch a monkey. But they're all in meditation. The lion is just as much in meditation as the cat, as the small cat. The monkey in his mind, he's just in meditation as well. That's his nature. Fire is a meditation. It's living its dharma. Dharma means its nature. It's the dharma of fire to be hot and to burn. It's its nature. It's the nature. It's the dharma of water to be cooling and to flow. It's the dharma of air to move. It's its nature. And we have a nature as well. And everything else is living in accordance with its nature, except us. We're living through our ego. We're living through these ideas that we're something that we got to figure out. I got to find myself, figure myself out, figure it all. So that is a big part of why we're here, because we're more nuanced. but it also shows why we need to study the right things and learn the right things. And if we don't, it's like we've been reborn blind. This is why it's said that people need to study Jyotish, need to study Vedic astrology to be reborn, not be reborn blind, but to be reborn with vision and sight and Jyoti. So we start off this month, again, you see all the earth and water. If I move this forward, you'll see that stays, again, the moon notwithstanding, but Jupiter is about to move into air. This is the big shift, one of the big shifts. Mars is also about to move into air. And then the sun and Venus are going to move into fire. So we're about to move. So again, this is the 6th, April 6th. Jupiter moves into Aquarius. This is going to be a big shift. And then Venus moves into fire by April 10th. So again, there's still a lot of this earth and water for about half the month. Okay, and then we see the sun will move on the 15th. Now we have quite a bit more fire and air, and Mars moves in again on the 15th. Mars moves into Gemini, and the sun moves into Aries. So by April 15th, again, now we've had a big shift, and I'm going to go back and translate each one of these, but I just want you to see the shift out of the meditative space into the more active space that's coming. And then by the 16th or 17th, now Mercury is also there by the 16th. So you see by the 16th, all of that earth and water we were talking about, all of it's gone, except for Jupiter, Rahu, and Ketu. I'm sorry, not Jupiter, Saturn, excuse me. Saturn in Capricorn, and then Rahu and Ketu. So April has this big shift in the middle of the month to much more active energy. Active through fire and air. And there are different kinds of activity. Of course, air is mental activity. And fire is physical activity. So again, we have exalted sun, Venus, Mercury. So by the 16th or so, especially, now Venus moves in a little earlier. Venus moved in about the 10th, I think. Let's go back and see. Yeah, it was the 10th. So Venus moves into Aries on the 10th. So you'll find your relationships will get a little more contentious. They'll get a little more transactional. Venus in Aries, Venus in fire signs, more transactional, more accountability. And then Sun and Mercury are there by the 16th. So again, Sun comes in and it's a big new cycle of activity, action in the middle of April. This happens every year, April 16th or so. And so this is why it's good to do astrology, because we can see the future and we can see where things are going, and we can be more in the present. We could have been more prepared for the present. Again, like we were just talking with the full moon in Virgo and these planets in earth signs and all that. If you were paying attention as these things became more codified and condensed, you would have felt, okay, this is why I'm now doing that. If you go back and listen to my update on Virgo Pisces, I was talking very much about creating a structure for your spiritual unfolding. I was talking about that theoretically, and just very naturally and organically, I started going crazy with straightening things up. I didn't plan it, but then I was like, okay, here it is. Here I am doing it. And by the way, for me as a Gemini, that full moon was in my 4th house of Virgo. 4th house is your house where you live. So I was just feeling emotionally restless, right? And I was like, I just got to do this. And boom, and it's felt. And so again, this is how that works. So now we're shifting away from that again into this other space. So, and then the rest of the month, there'll be this emphasis on this fire as you see the planets kind of stay there. So again, this is just a large look of this shift into fire and air by the middle of the month. But let's drill down a little bit about this for sure, because this Jupiter in Aquarius is a big shift. Jupiter in Aquarius is, of course, it's been known for a while. I've been talking about this for months. Last year I started when I did my 2020 forecast. A big part of the 2020 forecast was Jupiter in Aquarius for all 12 signs. Or Jupiter, by the way, it's in Aquarius, then it goes back into Capricorn again later. So I analyzed in my 2020 forecast, 2021 forecast, pardon me if I said 2020. In my 2021 forecast, a big part of the forecast was Jupiter and his movements for all 12 signs, because again, he started in Capricorn this year. Then he's going into Aquarius from April 5th until early September. He goes back into Capricorn for a couple months. Then he finally leaves again. Right? So what that means for each of the 12 signs is very important. If you're Cancer, this is oscillating between the 7th and 8th houses. If you're Libra, it's between your 4th and 5th houses. If you're Pisces, it's your 11th and 12th houses. So that's what I did in my 2021 forecast, because this shifting of Jupiter back and forth this year is a huge part of what's inspiring us, where we feel like we're going, what's our collective inspiration, especially because Aquarius is the sign of our collective responsibilities and duties and our shared identity as a culture. And I saw today my excellent student Casey Scott did another one of his excellent write-ups. I might have him on again real soon to talk about Jupiter in Aquarius. And I had remembered I've done this research myself. He makes these excellent handouts, though. And I talked about these things too in a recent video. But talking about some of the a few of the last times that Jupiter went through Aquarius, things that happened that brought us together. One was this shuttle, the Challenger explosion in 1986. Remember when the shuttle exploded, the first teacher in space, and the whole world was watching? That happened with Jupiter in Aquarius. Again, you can see Aquarius is the sky. We may have some air disasters, hope not, but we're doing a lot of things, a lot of rockets being launched and stuff now. Hopefully we don't have fatalities, but look at these as things that bring us together. That really, again, that was one of those you'll never forget where you were moments if you were old enough. I was 23 or something when it blew up, 22. I definitely remember when I found out and seeing that. And that was 1986, right? And then in 1998, when this happened, it started to, there was a lot of things that were going on, like with Clinton's impeachment, the Monica Lewinsky kind of thing was going on, certain things like that, which sort of brought us together, culturally around politics and things like that. The last time Jupiter went through Aquarius, we had that Horizon oil spill. Remember when that happened in the the Gulf of Mexico? And again, I talk about these because they're sort of collective things that happen, often with technology and things like that as well. But in a shorter scale or in a more personal way, I talked about how this shift is going to be a great inspiration for society and culture right now. We definitely need it in a post-COVID or a COVID world where we've been on lockdown. And again, the lockdown started last year. Let me show you this. It started, March of last year. Here's March of last year. This is when it all started. This is March 23rd of last year. Look, Jupiter's about to go in. Saturn and Mars had just gone into Capricorn, right? And then a week later, Jupiter is there. So all this COVID lockdown stuff that started in 2020 happened when Jupiter went into Capricorn. I said at the time that it was going to be about a year and a half at least, that until Jupiter cleared Capricorn, we were going to be dealing with this feeling of being locked down, held back. And this is why one reason I made the prediction. Even though I knew it was going to go in and then go back into Sagittarius and then go back into Capricorn again, and go into Aquarius, then go back into Capricorn again. The big thing is for Jupiter to clear it the first time. At least until Jupiter clears it the first time, we're going to be grappling with this. And I also said I don't think we're going to be totally and like really feeling like we're out of it 100%, or at least like we can really relax a lot until it totally clears, which is going to be in like November of this year. But we'll take it. We'll take it now. We'll take where we are now, which is Jupiter getting through it, this is where he is. This is the 24th. So let me go back. So on the 5th, this is where he goes in on April 5th, right? April 5th, Jupiter goes into Aquarius. I can sense, and I think everybody can sense, everyone I talk to senses this time of hope just around the corner. Again, it was part of my 2020 forecast, and I've said it 1,000 times. 2021 was going to start really hard with all those planets in Capricorn and all that. We had that huge stellium in Capricorn, that end of the world transit with everything in Capricorn. That was real stuff. And it was like, but then things are going to start to lighten up. Planets are going to get through Capricorn. They're going to start to move. We're going to have exalted planet, exalted Venus, and, all this stuff. And then Jupiter's going to leave Capricorn. That's where we're at. I said vaccines are going to start to hit. We're going to start to put a lot of the craziness of the last several years behind us. And the further we get away from all that stuff, again, we're just going to feel more unburdened. And so this is really what is going on here. And again, regardless of what one might think about current politics or what have you, regardless, there's definitely a feeling that there's more inspiration. And again, there are people that are still hanging on to a lot of negativity. And again, it doesn't mean all our problems are solved or anything like that. But let's face it, it feels much more open now. And that's going to be continuing as Jupiter goes through Aquarius, again, from April to September. So we're going to really start to feel it in April. Again, we're already feeling the warm weather coming and people getting out. We still have the world we have, but I'll take it. We can all take it. And start to really look at our collective responsibilities, our collective duties that we have to each other. And our collective duties and responsibilities include things like maintaining hope and optimism and taking care of each other. And again, managing our philosophies. Jupiter is our philosophies. What is it that you believe? What do you believe? Again, look at how our beliefs have been, again, vacillating between the darkest, worst thing imaginable in the last couple years. Jupiter passed over Ketu, and again, it was debilitated. Our beliefs have been really hammered. It's been hard to stay hopeful, especially if Jupiter is difficult in your natal chart or whatever. It's been hard to stay hopeful, right? And again, going through Capricorn and whatnot, where we're just trying to survive. This is why Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn, because Capricorn is this feeling of surviving, like we're trying to survive. And again, there's a lot of beauty that comes in that awareness with Capricorn, because you come right down to earth and you stop taking everything for granted. But again, Jupiter is not that part of our mind. Jupiter is the guru. It's the wisdom. It's we want to feel inspired. We want to feel like, okay, here's what's going on. It's in Capricorn. It's like, okay, here's what's going on. I'm just trying to survive. Now, and then we start finding meaning and finding answers in things that are dark, conspiratorial, fearful. Again, conspiratorial, fearful beliefs is absolutely right out of a Jupiter debilitated playbook. By the way, it doesn't mean if you have it in your natal chart, that's what you do, but I'm saying that's like an archetype of that kind of thinking. This is why we've seen such a collective, like dark fantasy projection belief systems that have just been rampant for the last year. This is one of the reasons why COVID brought all of that shadow belief stuff out. People that were already, especially people that don't already have a really solid belief system or understanding of higher knowledge, or some of them who think they do, and then they're like, but then they get into, again, all the conspiratorial dark fantasy scenarios. So again, Jupiter moving into Aquarius is going to elevate a lot of this stuff, and it's going to be harder to just maintain all of that. Not that people won't do it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that we're going to feel it'll be much more easy to say, okay, no, I get it. Okay, we've been going through something, but we're moving through it. And again, our collective responsibility to each other to maintain a positive outlook, while we keep our eyes on what's going on. It doesn't mean if you have a positive outlook, you stop using your powers of discrimination and critical thinking. They're not different. they're the same. I mean, it's they're different faculties, and so. But again, every great teacher has always said, be positive. Worrying, negativity does nothing. It doesn't accomplish anything. We just spread it. And so we've been spreading these thought viruses. The biggest virus, the biggest virus has been these thought viruses, that we've just spread and that have polluted our relationships with each other as well. And these are the kinds of things that are so sad, right? Even saying these things that I'm saying in a very kind of neutral way, just that I don't want people to be spinning out on paranoid conspiracy theories and whatnot. There will be people that absolutely hate me for saying this. Because no, I want my paranoid, I want to feel that way. You're just ignorant or blah, blah, or whatever. So it's kind of like, it's sad to see how hard it's been just to even try to maintain positive messaging without a nasty, negative, horrible backlash. And again, so this is this shifting of Jupiter into Aquarius is going to show a great possibility for that whole dialogue and our collective responsibilities, our collective duties to each other to elevate. And even those who have been prone to falling into the dark fantasies, again, it's harder to maintain that when Jupiter moves into Aquarius. This is the thing to understand. And you want to understand this clearly, because I talk to people now, even even people that are Jyotishis or my students or other people sometimes, and it'll be like, yeah, but those people, they ain't going away. They're still going to be there. Oh, yeah. There's always going to be that. But I'm talking about the explosion of it and the fomenting of it and the advancing of it to people who are otherwise not going to be thinking like that. That's the thing that shifts, because what we've noticed is all the people who really were just kind of going around, they were just kind of open to what is going on. And then this collision of all these energies with the COVID, and again, astrologically with Jupiter in Capricorn, with Saturn and whatnot, it created this environment where people who would otherwise be like, well, I don't know. I mean, it's a virus and we need a vaccine. Instead, they now see all of this, so much darkness, and then they start to feel it too, and then it starts to grow. The point is, with Jupiter moving into Aquarius, that whole kind of thing is going to be less. And we'll start to feel more and realize and start to come out of that kind of thing. And there's always going to be people, no matter what, they think that. Again, I've said this from the beginning as well, is the people who think that, at least the core, they think it about everything. They don't just think about COVID, they think it about everything. Notice it. Notice the real hardcore folks that believe every conspiracy or every kind of thing. They think that about everything for the most part. or they were ripe to just believe it. And again, I'm not trying to be dismissive or mean. I'm really not. But if that pokes you and bothers you, think about what I said. Okay? You can get mad at me about it. Okay? But notice, you believe all of that. Do you believe that about everything? Probably. Have you ever been wrong? Maybe. Probably. To some extent. So it's an opportunity to think about those things and to introspect. So this is a big shift. It's a big shift because after Aquarius, again, it goes retrograde. It's in Aquarius from April till September. And then, again, there's a retrograde cycle in there, and then he goes back for a couple months. But then he leaves finally in November, and then he goes through Aquarius, and then the next year he's in Pisces. He's in Pisces, and then he's in Aries. These are very powerful signs for Jupiter. So what I want you to understand is that starting April 5th, which is a few days, the shifting of Jupiter is, for the most part, into some very positive territory for the next few years. Minus another brief return to Capricorn, where again, but even when we get from September to November, it's actually just going back and finishing and being very thorough and making sure that we got that transit finished. But then he goes through Aquarius. Again, this is advancements in sciences, in collective consciousness, even things like politics or other kinds of progressive things that will move us forward. Then he goes into Pisces next year, which is very mystical, metaphysical. Then he goes into Aries, again, very inspiring. So we're now right on the verge of a huge positive Jupiter shift. And, for the last couple of years, it's been quite challenging. He was in Scorpio. Again, the power of Jupiter transits the last few years has been that it's supported what you would call spirituality, but most people aren't very spiritual. They believe things and they find confirmation bias in what they already believe, as shown in things like I was just saying. People who are conspiratorial, they're conspiratorial about everything, and Jupiter can just help them really double down on it. And some people, that's their spirituality. Their spirituality is that's their beliefs. Again, Jupiter went through Scorpio, then he went into Sagittarius with Ketu, and then debilitated. And again, so Jupiter has been set up for the last couple years to just blow up and explode all of this stuff. That's what we've seen. He's now moving out of that and could really restore quite a bit of sanity to our thinking collectively. Again, Aquarius is the collective consciousness. So we're not so at each other's throats over this stuff. So we're not so defined by our end of the world stories, or that half of us are sheep and half of us are this and all of that crap, so that we can get back to something that is collective and shared and beautiful again. Possibility is definitely there. So that was a long explanation about this shift because I want people to understand how important it is. Again, so aside from that, as we said, we have the middle of April. Sun, Venus, Mercury are going into Aries. And again, that's an enthusiasm for a whole new cycle. It has a lot to do with, starting the new year and starting things, really feeling like it's like there's a forward momentum akin to spring. We just had the vernal equinox, of course. So now astronomically, the sun is in the northern hemisphere now for the next 6 months. Those in the southern hemisphere, they're experiencing the sun getting darker and darker. 1 second. But in the northern hemisphere, at least, it's we're spring moving to summer. But regardless of where you are, the sun in Aries, because it's still that section of sky when you use sidereal zodiac, and of course, Indian astrology is totally sidereal based, as is in all the texts. This is a time of renewal, regeneration. And Aries is very much about leaving the past behind, leaving the dark, leaving the darkness behind, even you would say. Whereas, the all that water and earth that we started the month with, again, it's very psychological. It can feel like we're kind of stuck a little bit, sort of hunkering down maybe a little bit with the earth and in the emotional world, in that feeling world. And we're still in it, as I say, for a couple, really for a couple weeks. And it's not really until the middle of April when things really shift, but we see it sort of gradually shifting. And then, boom, now we're ready to start going and moving forward with things. And so, again, the Sun, Mercury, Venus in Aries is taking the reflections and the organization and the connection to the heart that we're experiencing now. Hopefully we're optimizing that. And then, launching it out, doing, living that full-on life that we're supposed to live here, that fully embodied enthusiasm of life. And Mars, he's been in Taurus, and he moves, around the same time, like it was the 15th, I believe, 14th. And again, the same thing. Mars moves from Taurus, where it's much more about the preservation of form and whatnot, and moves into Gemini, much more intellectual. You want to be careful of arguments and battles, online battles, internet battles, communication struggles after the middle of April. It's definitely that's a time of fighting over ideas, because again, Mars is looking to clearly delineate, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, this is me, and Gemini is this sign of ideas, of details. So this is going to be going on, Mars and Gemini, for it's generally a couple months. So April until early June. So it's like almost like 7 weeks or so. So this long cycle of Mars through Gemini, and this potential for arguing and battling. Again, we'll see this play out externally in the world and in politics and all the stuff that we see. And even in the things I was just talking about with, our ideas. But it's also a time to really destroy the ideas that are not working on a personal level as well, and try to be flexible with other people's ideas as well. There is going to be, especially in the middle of the middle of April, a nice aspect from Jupiter to Mars. As Mars goes in, Jupiter will be given a nice aspect by transit. So that'll be beneficial. So we want to just see this, and I wanted to make a quick video here to talk about this. Big shift. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. I've been talking about this since last year, looking forward. By the way, and again, this isn't braggadocious or anything like this, but I heard even since the election, the prediction I made on the election was right on. The prediction I made before the election, even that there wasn't going to be riots. I mean, if you remember, before the election, we were thinking all kinds of stuff could happen. There might be rioting, civil unrest. It could drag. Again, I was like, no, Biden's going to win. It's not going to be people rioting in the streets. Now, of course, things came later, but I'm saying around that time there was so much stress. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. People are talking about 2021. Oh, if you thought 2020 was bad, you just wait. 2021. Oh, it's going to be. It's like, no, I don't think it is. It's going to start pretty intense, and then things are going to shift. And I said things that we know culturally about, vaccines going to come and blah, blah, blah. But I was looking astrologically. I was looking at this. I was looking at what happened before. As an astrologer, I do astrology, not I talk about the social events because this is stuff we can all see. But the astrology is what it is. This is where we came from. This is early February. Look at this. Look at all these planets in Capricorn. You can see. You can see why I said it was going to start intense. All these planets piling up in Capricorn at the beginning. Look at this. This was in early February, right? So January, February, we were going to have a lot of heavy energy. But then we have these shifts. This is a few weeks ago, right? The 26th, no, just last week. Then these planets move on. And now we're moving on to here, right? Now we're moving on, and I could see it. Okay, well, it's going to be intense, and then things start to shift. My 2021 forecast, it was like that. A lot of stuff at the beginning. But then Venus is exalted and blah, blah. It's like, okay, so things are going to start to lighten up. And then Jupiter moves into Aquarius. Okay. And stuff changes. So we're at that point, right? And it's starting to feel hopeful again, as much as we still have things with the COVID and the distancing and the weirdness around it. And, there's all kinds of stuff. And I'm not by any means an automaton around any of it. I'm not planning on getting vaccinated. I never get vaccinations. I've probably been exposed to it. Who knows at this point? Again, the biggest problems also are just what bothers me most is everybody at each other's throats. Everybody is now an epidemiologist and knows everything and are ready to yell at everybody else over things that most of us don't really know. And again, ripping apart the fabric of our relationships with each other. So these are the kinds of things that I think are going to be repaired and at least on the mend, and a lot of potential for coming together again collectively much better than we've been for the last few years. With Jupiter debilitated, Jupiter with Ketu, Jupiter fired up and all this stuff. Him in Aquarius, it's like, okay, look, we're in this together, and let's see how things go. And even a lot of the conspiratorial stuff will start to die down as people realize a lot of it's not true. And by the way, yeah, a lot of it's not true. It's pretty crazy to me. People are still like, I watched people for the last several months before the election and all that, Q this, Q that, Q. All of it was wrong. All the election stuff was wrong. All of you watch the eclipse. He's going to get it. I said from the very beginning he wasn't, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. I said it. It's remarkable that people still believe all this stuff. Still. Again, it just goes to show that people want to believe and they find what they want to believe. Again, I think for the most part, this kind of stuff, again, the further we get from it, we're still not that far from it. We're still a few months away from the last president. But as we get further from it, it starts to look more, it's going to get further and further in the rearview mirror, particularly as people's lives start to get better, other things start to happen. So again, that's what I would say. I don't want to beat that dead horse, but the part of it is just to remember this, and to see that we're coming out of that. And astrologically, again, this isn't Sam's social critique. I mean, that's an observation based on the astrology that we've seen and all of what we saw with the debilitated Jupiter back into Sagittarius and then back into Capricorn again. And again, before that, it had gone over Ketu and again, all this stuff. Now moving into Aquarius, we're moving away from that into something where we're going to want to be more involved in our collective relationship with each other. Again, the last year, Jupiter and Capricorn, we're not able to do so much with our collective responsibility because Capricorn, like I said, is just hunkering down, trying to survive it. So it's like, well, I'm trying to survive, and that moves on from that. That's not the frame anymore. And you can feel it. And Aquarius makes it even more so that way. So it gets harder to maintain all of that stuff. That's the point. And the people who just have spun out for a while because they're alone and sequestered and fearful. Again, even think of all those people that just kind of got sucked up and caught up in all that. There'll be less of that. And you're going to have the hardcores. You're just going to, because that's their nature. But others won't. It'll be harder to just keep all of that, like, well, who knows? It could be that, could be that, could be baby eating pedophiles. Who knows? It's harder to keep all of that afloat with Jupiter in Aquarius and things on the ascent. Again, and then even the following year, we got Jupiter in Pisces, right? So then again, where he's the ruler. So I hope that we'll just leave it at that. And I hope that this was helpful for people to see some of the social context as well, and see some of that and see some of these shifts, and that you got something from it again, even in your with your personal life and your spiritual practices and your and your projects. Again, we're right on the verge of things, really turning in our favor for those who want to be showing up, in the world and inspiring others and starting your projects. The middle of April, we're going to get a big shot in the arm with the exalted sun and the Venus. Again, Mars going through Gemini. Be careful of, battles and stuff. I got to watch myself, my internet battling. Make a note to self. I know. It's true. But, and so we'll leave it at that. I'll put the link for the Nodes in Taurus. Again, I did this Nodes in Taurus web class that is really helpful. And also, again, if there are anyone who didn't get who didn't get my 2021 forecast as well, that is also available if you haven't gotten that yet. These are all free. You can just go check it out, and I do a comprehensive overview at the 2021 forecast of this Jupiter shifts for all 12 signs. So I literally talk about how Jupiter, if you're Cancer, Jupiter is in your 7th house from the beginning of the year until April. Then it goes into your 8th house until September. Then it goes back in your 7th house. And again, I explained that shift for all the 12 signs in the 2021 forecast. So you all take care. Thanks for spending time with me. You can get notified and like and subscribe and share this with people that you think would enjoy watching it.